to ninja training, where all your dreams will come true.
This is so awkward.
Our ninja course. Here's what, you guys know kind of why we're doing this, right? We're going to kickstart a ninja group in January. And so today, or this week we do this is important to promote the ninja program, especially to little boys, because there's no future for them in this, as far as gymnastics or cheer. Well, there is for cheer, right? Can you scratch that?
Edit that out.
Edit that out. Because we want a place for them to go rather than quitting gymnastics or cheer or tumbling. And so we're trying to kickstart this group and make it fun for them. It's easy to make it fun because it is fun, but what we wanted to discuss with you guys mostly was the differences between spotting gymnastics and spotting this crazy stuff. Okay, so it's miniaturized, but you can kind of pick out some of the obvious problems in it. Like, what are some obvious problems you might see in a circuit like this?
Letting go and following your doing.
So, timing has changed, right? In gymnastics, everything is stationary except for rings. And we don't even use rings in here, so everything is mobile, or a bunch of things are mobile. So that's one of the biggest problems, is timing-wise, things could fall off. The thing to go along with that is things will swing back and hit them. And so whenever you have a mobile object like the trapeze here, or the rope, or if you had a set of rings, or those are the two mobile ones. You gotta make sure that the equipment's not gonna swing back and hit them. The other thing is, when we set up a circuit for gymnastics, you usually set up a circuit so that you can spot one station and let the kids go on the others. You kind of got to pick and choose which one, and we'll kind of go through some of this and decide which one's the most dangerous, but you certainly don't want to leave a kid out to be hanging somewhere and you got to run over and grab them. You've been to the playground with your kids and they're on the monkey bar, and you run over because they can't finish the monkey bars. So we want to figure that out. The biggest things we discovered, hey Jen, when we were doing this is just kind of introducing the stations and letting them go wasn't quite enough. You kind of got to show them how to do the station. In gymnastics, especially when we break it down to just preschool, and maybe someday we'll get there, but it's usually you can show them or demonstrate it once or twice, but then they can kind of figure it out on their own. Well, here, I think some of these, you're going to have to give them a little more pointers, or else it could be dangerous. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're kind of exploring how to do it ourselves, so we haven't set up a...
And so we're calling it ninja, but it's not necessarily like martial arts ninja. It's more like American Ninja Warrior.
Obstacle course training.
Obstacle course training,
yeah.
exactly. And Andrew, if you guys don't know, Andrew is awesome at doing this stuff. He's won several competitions and just is a beast when it comes to doing these type of
He hasn't been on the show yet. I don't know.
Well, he should have been. But so that's why Andrew's doing this, because he knows just a lot about in general trial and error. Not only from him as an athlete, but then having to take what he's doing and putting it in a miniature version for preschoolers who obviously are not as coordinated or as strong, and et cetera, et cetera.
For 4 weeks in a row, we set up different courses for Trayvon's kids to kind of explore, and we saw a lot of things what not to do. Like within a couple of seconds, we figured out a couple of things not to do. Like kids were in a situation where if they fell, they would fall onto something, and that's a bad idea. And so there's that. Here are some of the, if you were to break down gymnastics, you would kind of break it down: flexibility, strength, technique, anything else. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of good foundation of gymnastics, foundation of cheer for that matter. Well, when it comes to this, technique kind of goes out the window. It's about accomplishing something. So you can teach how to do something. At the end of the day, it's how their body's gonna make that obstacle. So the things we're focused on here is strength, flexibility, similar to gymnastics and cheer, and time. And that's something that I kind of want to explore with you guys and get your ideas on, is because timing is an important thing in this little sport. And one way to do it is to have them run the course a couple of times, go through it a couple of times, and then instead of saying, okay, now show off, you say, now run the course and time them. Because that's kind of the endurance aspect of it. That aspect of it is very much part of the ninja thing. But it's hard to do that in a course, in a group setting, because you can imagine how much time it takes. So something we explored was to have a kid go, and when they got midway through, say the next kid, go, chase them. Like play chase through the obstacle course. And to see how that goes. But so as I was coaching this with Trayvon, one of the first things we saw when we did that was obviously kids are going to fall, right? And so I think as we introduce this, and there's not really a station for this, but teaching them how to roll fall, teaching them how to parkour fall, I think could potentially benefit them.
And really, this should happen in gymnastics as well. But I think this would be a really good opportunity to, maybe during stretches or before you actually get on the equipment or go through a circuit to talk about falling and how to fall correctly and safely.
So in your warm-up, I would suggest doing your little bit of strength, a little bit of flex like you usually do, but then also doing some kind of falling drill. Okay, and this is where Andrew doesn't know anything. So ideas on falling drills?
I'm gonna say I've done it lots of. You have, Rachel?
Over to you for a few moments.
So at Woodward we had to teach how to fall. That was the first thing we had to learn how to fall. So we taught 3 different types of rolls. The first roll was just a regular forward roll with your hands. The second roll was a gorilla roll where they had their hands underneath like this. So for the little ones it might be kind of hard for them to get.
Could you demonstrate the 3 rolls?
So, yeah, forward roll like this. Gorilla roll like this. Not using your hands. And then we set a Rambo roll, which was over just like that. So you learned how to do 3. So the third one would be definitely the hardest one for the little ones to learn. But those were the 3 that we taught for falling. So we maybe just being able to try that, and then just practicing going step, or just first start, step backwards, smacking their arms on the ground, then going 1, 2, 3, smack your arms on the ground. We just made them do that for the first whole part of class.
Good. I think that fits right into a warm-up, doesn't it?
Do you mind holding this? And I've done one, and I probably wouldn't necessarily do it on that hard surface, but I've taken kids like over on beam and sat them on the low beam, and there are some that are very, very scared to do this. But I'll kind of go behind them to slow them down a little bit the first time. So they're like, oh, okay, not that bad. But I'll have them go like this and sit on the edge and just hold their arms and literally just fall down. And they're scared to do it, but again, it's that like I'm falling, but force yourself to keep your arms in. So that's one I've used too. But thanks, sorry.
Good, because at least 3 times they're going to have options to fall backwards on these stations, and 3 times they're going to have a chance to fall forward. And immediately on the very first day we set these up, I realized even on the quintuple steps that kids were falling and then reaching out to save themselves. And so, similar to the need for a strong handstand in gymnastics, I think the need for a strong roll in this sport would benefit them. So can we incorporate that in our warm-up? Makes sense, right?
And like I said, it's good stuff to use for your normal gymnastics classes as well. So it's anything in this gym. They're gonna trip, they're gonna fall, they're gonna like that example right there. Thanks for being of how not to fall. Right there, broken arm waiting to happen. I really actually wish I would have gotten that on camera. I was like, no! Oh, man.
You're still recording?
I am.
All right. Adaption. So,
Don't worry, Andrew, the camera adds 10 pounds.
He's like, yes!
Adapting. Luckily, Trayvon's group was almost all identical sizes and little boys, so they fit, but a bunch of obstacles are geared toward jumping and hanging, which might not fit everybody. A good example is a station like this where they're going to jump from the donut to the bar to the mat. They're doing like a lâché swing. A lâché is when you jump to a bar. You go bar to bar, which is like a lâché, but anyway. Well, some kids are going to hit their chin on that if they're too tall, and the little kids aren't going to be able to reach it. And
or if they're just not good about spacing, perception and...
Yeah. Or they could be fat, and so they don't jump as far. How much are we editing? Because you just ridicule kids on whether they can spatially aware things. Anyway, I don't think we should get racial about this whole thing, but anyway.
Whoa!
just saying, not everybody can jump as far, so we have to be able to adapt. Most of the stations, I think, are perfectly reasonable for everybody, but there's a couple of adaptations, like, anything. Anyway, just like gymnastics, just be aware of the smaller kids that might need help.
So I have a question, because I have a class.
I've got the same kind of class. So.
And I last week just had to make them walk in a circle. That was it. On every station. Because that's all we know how to do now. And then we had to learn each other's names so that I could say, can we go to this next, like follow the next person? And we're very, very just three.
And
so this might be the same thing we do here. We just walk through the same thing.
And exactly. I mean, just like any gymnastics circuit,
Okay.
you can adjust things for your class. Whether it's like, oh, this is too easy for them. Oh, that's too difficult for them. Always adjust.
Yeah.
My class
Because
is
we
scared
want it to be
jump,
safe.
I'll probably move that bar back.
But two, I honestly think you'll find more success with this than you would in a strict gymnastics class. And I think you'll be surprised at the kids that can't follow directions, how they would love doing something that's less stringent. It's less, Now let's get from one object to another as best you can, and I get to try it again. I get to go again and try it again.
And I think that's something that's kind of cool, and Andrew touched on, was if you watch like American Ninja Warrior, again, it's not about technique. It's like you just have to accomplish this. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just have to accomplish that task. And so depending on, like you were saying, I mean, different sizes of athletes, different just body types. I mean, Andrew is probably a lot smaller than a lot of the other competitors, where, you take like Chris, who's a lot taller and his arm length is a lot bigger, so like, even like the quintuple steps there, I mean, when they're quadruple, whatever it is, quadruple, whatever steps, but, where you'll see, like, on American Ninja Warriors, some of the taller people are just boing, 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 boing across. Whereas you see, like, what was the female?
Just kidding.
What was the one chick that, I don't know her name, but she was very tiny, so she had to go, jump, stop, jump, stop to get across. So, I mean, they have all accomplished it. It's just, you might have to adjust based on the kid, based on their body, but based on their coordination, whatever it is.
But it really needs to be up to them. Like, you can show them a variety of ways to do it, but at the end of the day, they're going to figure it out. That's kind of the fun part about it. So kids that love doing this will figure out a way to accomplish it. But I guess what we haven't really encountered is kids that don't like doing it at all. So, maybe some kids are going to get here and go, this is dangerous, this is a dumb idea. And then I don't really know what to tell you. I think most kids enjoy it, but I have a tendency to think everybody
We
likes
just try to find our stars.
doing what I do.
And I think that one good thing that it does bring out, even gymnastics-wise, is we talk a lot about, you could have a really talented gymnast, but they're scared of everything. They're afraid to jump. They're afraid to go upside down. They're afraid to blah, blah, blah. This pushes them to that limit of, being able to push kind of past a lot of those fears. So it can tell you a lot about the kid as an athlete, whether it be gymnastics or otherwise.
So, kind of fundamentally now, this is how we break down ninja courses. We talked about the idea of strength, flexibility, and speed, which are kind of like the foundation. That's the technique to get it all. But this all is kind of broken down into three aspects, and that is balance, jumping, and swinging. And so whenever we are introducing things, you can kind of talk about those things. Arms, like swinging, like we get the lache, the rope, the arms here. Balance, which is going to be the balance beam, even the quintuple steps. Balancing on the donut. We don't have a lot of balance stations here today. And then jumping. So when you do your warm up and you're introducing your falls, those are three things to think about too. We have hollow month or hollow week or tuck week or pike week. Well, similarly here we could introduce balance, jumping, and arms and swinging. So in a variety of ways, and I made a small outline, but a good example is like balance is even starting your toddlers on single leg bouncing or single leg balancing, and then balancing on a beam, and then balancing on a higher object, and then going like traveling balancing. So balancing in a variety of ways. Jumping could be as simple as learning to do a frog jump, to a small broad jump, to a precision jump where you're jumping from object to object, to raising that object off the floor and doing the same thing, and then combining balance with jumping where you're jumping, precision jumping and trying to balance, jumping, precision, balance. And then swinging is just basically anything upper body, which is, at the end of the day, it's really what all of this all boils down to, and that's why majority of this should be geared toward arms, because even though every ninja obstacle has some balance and some jumping, it really boils down to arms. And so swinging objects, chin-ups, I mean that's basically a lot of gymnastic stuff, except for the mobile obstacles. So that's kind of the foundation of this. We want to spend a few minutes. I don't have any little kids here though, unfortunately, to really watch them run a station, but that's kind
I
of
should have
where
recorded earlier is what I should have done. I didn't think about it.
Well, I wanted to, because we learned a lot just by spotting that first time through. I'm really concerned that we're going to get ourselves into unsafe situations and it can't be there. We can't put a kid in an unsafe environment. But
What happened to Jordan's little cheerleader that she
She,
I was just
she started
gonna say.
crying and then left.
Oh, okay.
let's get them back out. These are the stations that are going to exist, though. So we can go through these stations real quick. Since you're the smallest, maybe you and I could share
Okay,
how
I'll
to
pretend I'm really
how to
small.
do it. Let's go cut.
Rachel, just